Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Maddrey, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Kemerer.
Teresa Tysinger is back with us today to talk about, here's our fun title, Fall/Harvest/Thanksgiving themed romances. We're throwing it all in there. Thanks for joining us again, Teresa.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
What is it about fall//themed romances that had you excited to come talk with us today?
Well, I think it's everything that has to do with fall that might end up in a book. I mean, it's that simple for me. It's my absolute favorite season. I love the coziness and the traditions and the weather. And I'm just sort of a sucker for, I think there's always opportunity for romance, but there seems to be extra opportunity, for, at least in my mind, when some of those sort of typical fall cozy kind of things pop up. So that's what I love.
Especially because it's starting to get cool. So you need to snuggle under a blanket, possibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, our topic is super broad. How broad are we going? If the book spans an entire year or more and happens to mention Thanksgiving in one scene, does that count? Or do we want something more focused and drilled in? Or does it not matter because any mention of fall is always worth mentioning? What do you think, Valerie?
I think that it needs to be at least focused on the fall or autumn season. But it was pretty tricky looking for Thanksgiving themed books, which was what I was really trying to do at first. They just seem to be a prelude to Christmas romances pretty much. So
I was really disappointed. Narelle, do you have limits that you want to put on anything?
Well, it's just all very confusing because fall is called autumn and it happens from March to May in Australia. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas is hot. So, I mean, anything that you put it, so for me, it's all very confusing. But I would say I'm always fascinated by Thanksgiving food. So years ago when my kids were younger, we had an American friend whose husband was in Australia because he worked in the military. And we actually put on a Thanksgiving lunch. And we did this for a couple of years while she was here. And that just intrigued me, all the different foods. So what I would probably say in terms of Thanksgiving themed things is I'm looking for food to learn about. That's exotic from my perspective. So there has to be some kind of family or some kind of Thanksgiving meal for it to tick that box. And I love fall. Like I love the crunching autumn leaves and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a lovely time of year. It's my favorite season as well. So books that are set during fall are just fun.
Excellent. Teresa?
I'm kind of with Valerie. I had a hard time finding books that specifically, mentioned at least Thanksgiving as I think of it. And so for me, when I hear fall books, I tend to definitely think of sort of that traditional fall, focus, what we think about here in the States, sort of what that season sort of epitomizes in people's minds.
Orange and pumpkins.
Right. Like festivals and all that kind of fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's part of what I was going for. Like, I think, okay, when we talk about a Christmas romance, we know that we're talking about snow. We know we're talking about sleigh bells ring, and we have all the, the Christmas cookies and hot chocolate and all that. So when you're looking at a Thanksgiving themed book, you'd be looking for the apple cider and the pumpkins and the turkey dinner, which in North America, we can have that for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we've already had Thanksgiving in Canada. So there you go. The turkey was good, everybody. And being together with family. So it's like there are certain themes of food motifs, maybe is what I'm trying to say, that seem associated with fall and Thanksgiving that are slightly different than the ones for Christmas. Yet they all land in the same book a lot of times.
They do. And Narelle's like, I think of fall and I think of the beach. And, Christmas. I guess Christmas is the beach and ice cream.
I'm just confused, so that's okay. Yeah. You'll just have to indulge my confusion with the topic.
Pardon us, Northern Hemisphere centric people up here.
Right.
Please use our hemisphere bias. All right, so I think we probably can just dive in and talk books. So Teresa, you want to go first?
One of my favorite, I actually did a post not long ago on Inspi Romance about fall themed books. And so I have sort of some that are already fresh on my mind from having put that together. One of my absolute favorites is A Twist of Faith by Pepper Basham. It's that she was, I've been reading her for years, but that one in particular just really struck a chord with me. Most of her books take place in the mountains of North Carolina. And so, which is my personal niche and where I absolutely, love fall time in the mountains. And that's where the book takes place. And it's, the premise is not necessarily, dependent upon the fall season. But you've got a speech pathologist as our heroine who ends up working with the hero in some interesting ways. And anyway, but fall creeps in and just the right, it's sort of just enough fall to kind of, you hear the crunching leaves and the colors changing and the weather shifting, and she does such a wonderful job of sort of just painting that picture. Nice. So I would highly recommend that one.
That's a good one. I enjoyed that might be the first Pepper Basham book I read.
It's a good one to start with.
Yeah, I was hooked. It's such a good one. It's sort of it's almost a take on Pygmalion / absolutely. My Fair Lady in Reverse / right. It's that, which is fun. I love that story too. Yes. So that made it even more fun. I noticed it was funny to me that you didn't name the mountains. You're not going to take a chance on Appalachia.
No. Yeah. And Pepper is so funny about, she often will talk on social media, schooling people about Appalachian, so I'm not from the mountains, but I went to college up there. And so that is definitely something that you learn early on when you move to the area, for sure.
Because until her, I'd always just seen the word and gave it a sh sound. Yeah. Appalachian would have been how I would have said it, but what do I know? I'm not from around there.
You're not. And the sh just gave you away. Narelle, what's your first book?
Well, my first book, I've been rereading some favorite novellas recently. And so it's Valerie Comer's Riverbend series is actually based on seasons. So that came to mind straight away. So the one I'm talking about is Teen Bride, which is the one set during fall. And this has a fall festival in the book. So it ticks that box as well. And it's a best man bridesmaid story. So the hero and heroine are paired up in the wedding and he's really interested in her and she's really not interested in him from the beginning, and it's a really fun story. So I always find festivals fascinating. I think it's like there's a festival every weekend. Maybe that's just my imagination. It seems like there's always festivals and small towns are always doing things, and I find that all very intriguing because we don't have so much of that happening in Australia the same way, although we do have pumpkin festivals and different things as well. Yes, but that was my first choice, was Teen Bride. So if you haven't read the Riverbend series, go read them because they're really fun novellas that don't take long to read, but just a lovely escape.
I'm sure glad you enjoyed it.
That was on my list too. So, yeah. All right, Valerie, what's your first?
My first is It Will Be Forever by Jennifer Rodewald. Did I say her name right? Rodewald?
That's how I say it.
Okay,
Okay.
well, that's how I say it too. And it starts out with Dree Ruston, who is in college. She left her home in Nebraska behind and went to Texas for college to get away from her toxic older brother and his best friend. And so now she's been specifically invited home for Thanksgiving. And she drags her best friend along saying, protect me from this guy. And she's like, why would you need protecting from this guy, right? Tom, the older brother's best friend. So it's a story that, you know, depends a lot on their relationship back in high school, but it has some fun stuff to it. And so while it starts out over the whole Thanksgiving thing, it stretches out much beyond that. But you'll be glad to know, Narelle, there is a turkey dinner in it.
Excellent.
Qualifies.
Excellent. So my first was An Informal Date by Heather Gray. And this is Kimmy is a barista in the hospital coffee kiosk because her brother owns a series of coffee kiosks and coffee trucks around the city. So she's working for him while she studies to be an art therapist. And there's I think it's Owen, is this incredibly brilliant research doctor who arrives at this specific time every day. He's very clearly on the spectrum, which I love. And he's just this fantastic hero.
Because it's like at 6:37 and a half a.m. every day or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he knows he's coming.
Yeah. And any little change just like upsets his whole, they had to raise prices. And she has noticed his quirks. So she lets him know with a lot of advance warning because he always brings exact change, you know, figuring in the tax and everything. She's like, prices are going to go up, just so you know. But they work together for to put together their church harvest festival. And so, you know, it's got all the fun of church committee planning hijinks and figuring out, you know, how many pieces of candy each kid should win if they win this thing, and trying to get a Ferris wheel. It's just very fun watching as these two complete opposites work to bring out each other's strengths, which is just really fun. And so it's fun, but it's also heartwarming. And it's beautiful. It's one of my favorites. I
remember the beginning of that one very clearly, but I'd forgotten that there was a harvest festival involved.
Oh, all right. Teresa, do you have another one?
I do. It seems like when I'm kind of thinking through titles, I can always rely on my friend and author whom I love her writing is Toni Shiloh. Mm-hmm. She's written something I feel like that goes with every topic to some degree, you know, hits a certain topic. And I love her Maple Run series. And so her book, Buying Love, is the Maple Run book that's set in the fall time. And I believe it's Virginia that the book is set in, which in and of itself is a great area for fall time. Leaves change, weather changes, that sort of thing. But Nina is looking to sort of move to that next phase of her life. She's ready to get married, and kind of takes matters into her own hands and decides to place like an ad in the newspaper to kind of, you know, see if anybody's willing to kind of help her out. And there's more to it than that. But Dwight is a small town family family restaurant owner who's kind of taken over and is interested in kind of keeping his dad's legacy going. But there's some money issues, and so he kind of decides to take this opportunity when he sees her ad, and it's just kind of how all of that works together. And she sort of course, begins to fall for him. And so there's this sort of small town chef, and there's a lot of It's not necessarily related around Thanksgiving, but a lot of fall foods and produce and, you know, that sort of stuff really kind of sneaks in here and there. So it's kind of just a perfect touch.
That's a great series. I enjoyed those as well.
Yeah, I love it. I'm also discovering that you guys are way better at giving these verbal synopsis of these books. So to the listeners out there who aren't quite sure by what I'm saying, please, I promise that, you know, check it out. And
we've had a lot of practice, Teresa.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're so kind, but I'm looking at my notes here and trying to, you know, review stuff, but you guys are so much better at it. So hopefully I'm giving enough of a little taste.
You did great. You did great.
All good.
Narelle, what's your next one?
Well, I think I'll go with, because I've been talking about food and Thanksgiving, Blizzard in the Bluegrass by Hallee Bridgeman. And Hallee will often add recipes and different things to her books. So this one actually, some of the things that we eat in the story, you can actually make later. So I love those little touches because Thanksgiving food is so foreign to me. But Blizzard in the Bluegrass is actually a Thanksgiving leading into Christmas story. As we talked about before, often I've noticed they do go hand in hand, that Thanksgiving will come first. And I won't go too much into the story detail because I have talked about it before, but the main character is a single mom and she has a son on the autism spectrum, and the hero is just delightful. He lives next door, and it's just a really lovely, sweet story that I really enjoyed.
That was in a multi-author box set, wasn't it?
Yes, it was When Snowflakes Never Cease is the name of the box set that it was in. Yeah.
Valerie?
My second one is Unexpected Family by Jill Kemerer. It's a secret baby story from a divorced couple. His parting word, Tom's parting words to Stephanie were, well, at least we didn't have any kids.
Oops.
So when she finds out that she's pregnant a few weeks later, she doesn't tell him. So it is a story that takes place in the fall. It does run over into Christmas, but the Thanksgiving part is fairly strong in there as well. And as she's allowing him into their child's life, like little bit by little bit by little bit, and he invites the two of them to his family Thanksgiving. And of course, they'd been together, they'd been married and divorced. And so his family is very skeptical of letting her back in at all. They want the child, but they don't want the child's mother. So it was pretty fun, pretty well done. And I enjoyed that one by Jill.
All right, so my second is a Sorta Southern Serenade by Krista Phillips. I love her is it a kind of romance? She's got little parentheses around them. They're adorable. They're all
cute,
shorter.
yeah.
This is a novella. And this is Kendra, who has moved back to the Nashville area and has hired a landscaper to handle her new home yard and stuff. And she's talking to her sister, and the windows are open because it's just that perfect beginning of fall where you're opening your windows and letting the air go through and cleanse your house of all the summer fusties. And so the landscaper truck pulls up and she makes sort of a snobby comment about, you know, not expecting landscapers to look so hot when they're, you know, these little menial, uneducated people, right? Turns out John owns the company and he just happens to be coming along with one of his workers, but he marches up and he fires her as a customer. This is like the opening scene, is he's firing her as a customer. He writes her a check back for her deposit because he's like, I would never work for someone who would treat my people this way. My people work hard. They put up with a lot of crap. And I'm not
like this.
Yeah, like this. He's like, we don't need your business. Here's your check. So, and it goes way, way downhill first before it can get any better. But fall is definitely part of, because she's come home. And I think homecoming fits in well with those Thanksgiving and fall themes often. And it's Krista. So you're always going to laugh.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're always going to laugh. And then you're always going to maybe want to cry. Sometimes you can hold it off, but she runs the spectrum of emotions really well with her stories.
Yeah, she does.
So I'm for a third one. Do you have a third one, Teresa?
Yeah. Just clarifying, it's okay if I mention one of my own books.
Unless you're going to mention Suddenly Forever, because that's my third one. So
I was okay. Okay, I won't do that then. I'll hold off. Then I'm gonna but I am going to take sort of another liberty and mention one that I've not read yet. But it is Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Tagg. That has is, by the time this airs, will have come out. And I'm just absolutely, Melissa is so good at everything I've read of hers. She's very good at writing stories that are the scenery and the imagery is so rich. In whatever season that she's writing in. And so this is just one that I absolutely can't wait to read. And there's a lot of fun talk, and just the cover in and of itself.
That cover really beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous? It just really hits all of those fall color tones, and you get that sense of the atmosphere sort of shifting. The colors are shifting. You sort of get a feel that the water's getting colder, that the home is cozy, that's sitting on the little rocky cliff. So I can't wait to read that.
Yeah. Cool. That cover, I've gone over to Amazon to look at that cover a couple times. I'm like, do I want to pre-order this? Maybe I do. Because that cover
it's a beautiful cover.
It's fantastic. Yes. Yeah.
I've had it pre-ordered since the maybe minute that the pre-order was live.
Nice.
So I can't wait. Yeah.
Cool.
Narelle, what's yours?
Well, with the Melissa book, I was looking at that one, and I think it's a romantic mystery, which is something we've talked about before. There's some CCRs that are moving more into the mystery, so I thought that was quite intriguing. But my third one is also a book I've talked about before, My Beastly Billionaire by Jackie Castle. And in this book, he's I've got to remember the setup. So he's a reclusive billionaire. He was a former playboy who was in a motorbike accident and is scarred from that. So he's hiding away from the world. And the heroine, Elisa, is an interior designer, and she's got the contract to do some work in his manor house. And she gets stranded there at Thanksgiving. So it was a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and I really love that story. It's a very fun story. It's one I would go back to and reread. And as I said, it has the Thanksgiving elements in it as well, which I also liked.
Sure, that's good. All right, Valerie, what you got?
I have got a story by Elizabeth Maddrey called Pathway to Peace. And again, it's one that I read quite a while ago, so I don't remember all the details, but it starts off just before Thanksgiving when Gavin's grandmother invites the grocery store clerk home for Thanksgiving dinner. And Gavin is not completely impressed with that. And so it kind of goes from there. It's one that then does go on to encompass the rest of the Christmas season and so forth. But the Thanksgiving dinner, Narelle, is on the page. So because it really focused there, it wasn't just like a slide by. I thought that it was appropriate to mention for this purpose.
And that was the one I couldn't remember the name of. I knew that Beth had one.
I had to go hunt. I had to go look it up. I did.
Yeah.
That one had
I know it's there. I know it's there, but which one is it? That one.
Because she's working retail during the Christmas season, so you gotta get Black Friday in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So my third is Suddenly Forever by Teresa Tysinger. And it's really good. I just read this last week. Last week from when we were recording it. But and it is so much fall. It's so much beautiful. There's a harvest festival. There's falling leaves. There's cold lake water. It's just beautiful. My only thing that I was not prepared for is it is so much, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story of growing out of grief and moving on. But the grief is so thick at the beginning that if you have grief in your own life, which I currently have an awful lot of, it's made like have tissues nearby and maybe warn your kids that you're reading an emotional book. So they're not like, Mom, what's wrong? And it's like, it's the mom's crying because of the book. It's not you. It's a really fantastic story. And just to see, I loved the older neighbor who sort of meddles in cute ways, but then also just watching, and I've totally forgotten all the character names and I didn't write them down. So sorry.
That's okay.
Watching as the hero and heroine find each other, and the heroine wrestles with her feelings of grief and feelings of, is she betraying her husband who has passed, and the hero has feelings of regret and grief because his mother has passed and he wasn't the son that he wished that he could have been. And then it's so beautiful. And then at the end, there's this whole third twist thrown in that I won't spoil, that it's just like more go get a new tissue box. And but it's really, really beautiful, and it tugs all your heartstrings. So if you're like needing a cry, but you can't figure out how to, sometimes you need to cry and you can't figure out how to let it go read Teresa's book, Suddenly Forever. And you'll just sob there on the couch while reading.
Is it better for that than chopping onions, you think?
Yes. Yeah. Because it releases the emotions, not just the tears.
Okay, good. Because, approaching Thanksgiving, people might be making their dressing and chopping a lot of onions. So I was just checking to see, which you would recommend more.
This one for sure.
All right. Good to know. Good to know.
Maybe I wonder if wearing like a snorkel mask would keep you from crying while you were reading like it does when you're chopping onions. Probably not.
You just go ahead and give that a test, and we'll talk about that.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. It's and it's got all the fall stuff. It's again in the mountains of North Carolina, and I feel like North Carolina mountains are second only to like northern New Mexico, Colorado mountains when it comes to fall. So yeah, really, really pretty. And now we're probably good. Is there one that anybody feels they just absolutely have to squeeze in? Narelle, I'm looking at you. No, okay. Valerie?
Oh, we're good.
Okay. Great. Teresa, I guess since I stole your third one, I'm leaving you out of asking, but did you have another one?
No.
Okay.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome. So Teresa, remind everyone where they can find you and your books.
My website is teresatysinger.com. And my books are available there. They're linked, but they are also on Amazon. And in October, I released a collection called Christmas in Mistletoe Square that also has some buy links on other providers. So check those out. They're all linked on my website.
This book, or do any of those collection stories have Thanksgiving? Are they all just Christmas?
They all take place within the month of December. So it's after, so it's all leading up to Christmas.
Not fall.
Very specifically Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, square. You kind of figure, but yeah.
Right.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Teresa, for joining us again today. We appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us at Story Chats. If you have comments on fall books that we missed, maybe some non-Northern Hemisphere centric fall books are there. I mean, they've got to be out there somewhere, maybe. Leave them as a comment on the YouTube channel or on our Story Chats Facebook page. And while you're over there on YouTube, if you are over there on YouTube, hit subscribe and don't forget the notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can find more information about the podcast at inspiromance.com/storychats. And we will see you next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.